Welcome to Season 2 of the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. I'm Em, a sexologist and kinkster. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize desire in all of its forms, including darker desires. Each episode, we dive deep into the psychology of desire with a sexpert, everyday kinkster, or a kink expert. This is an independent podcast. To support it, please consider becoming a paid subscriber at psychologyofdesire.com, where you'll also find deep dives into desire and surveys that you can participate in. You can also sign up there to get the podcast delivered directly to your inbox when it's released. And now for today's episode. Before we get started, I have something very excited to announce. The podcast has been nominated for the Australian Adult Industry Awards in the category of Best Podcast. So if you'd love to vote for the Erotic Realm to win this category, it would be amazing to have your support. I'll put a link to the voting website in the show notes, and I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a click and a vote, and who knows, maybe it will win Best Podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. If you'd like to support the podcast, please consider checking out the brands that support the Erotic Realm. There's FermTech, whose tech ring offers fascinating insights into sexual health by tracking erection quality and nocturnal function. Splash Blanket, who create luxurious waterproof blankets designed for comfort, intimacy, and real-life messes. ProDX Health, who offer discreet, at-home STI testing. While Karoo and Lovents make premium pleasure technology, from couple toys to long-distance interactive devices. Then there's Lioness, who are doing something truly unique in sex tech, using biofeedback and orgasm data to help people better understand their arousal. I'm also partnering with Flow and Desire, science-backed libido support supplements designed to support sexual vitality and well-being. These are brands that I find genuinely interesting, science-backed, and I've used them myself, so they come with my recommendation. You can find the links to all of them in the episode description. If you try them, use the links below. It supports the show at no extra cost to you. And now, back to today's conversation. The following conversation explores a radical shift in perspective. What if desire isn't something we own, but something we participate in? Today, my guest is Sketchy, a scientist, artist, and queer thinker exploring what they call the ecology of desire. Together, we move beyond individual identity and into a relational understanding of eroticism, one shaped by biology, environment, and connection. We explore queer identity through the lens of nature, the role of symbiosis in intimacy, and how thinking of ourselves as part of a living system can transform how we experience desire. Drawing on ideas from queer ecology, this conversation asks, what if desire isn't just human, but ecological? Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast. Today, I'm excited to be exploring the erotic realm of Sketchy. Welcome, Sketchy.
Hi, glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. So before we dive into your eroticism, can we hear about who you are outside of kink and sexuality? What does your life look like outside of your erotic world? What are you up to in day-to-day life?
Yeah, it's actually quite hard for me to separate the two worlds. So I'm an artist and an ecologist, and I spend most of my time bouncing between those two disciplines. So in my artist life, I'm a printmaker. So I think a lot about materials, how they're used, and I create a lot of images that reference what I study as an ecologist, which right now I'm a vernal pool coordinator. So I go out into the middle of the woods and look for springtime pools that are full of frog eggs and salamander eggs. And so they're also very kinky, horny places where all of these animals are getting together to like have an orgy in the middle of the woods. So it becomes hard to keep the two separate, which is kind of nice. I like having that fidelity of identity in a way where it kind of stays the same.
And
Ecology is the study of nature itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's sadly is a word like it's linked with economics. Eco, it's the same term. So it kind of ends up getting capitalized by our society with that idea of nature being it all separate from us. So I think in that way, it's like ecological thinking is really like interconnected thinking, where the human isn't necessarily separate from it. But yeah, nature, how it interacts, what things are outside, and how to either help them work better together or how to help save them from the growing apocalypse of anthropogenic climate change.
Okay, huge topics.
Yes.
So you're describing yourself as both a scientist and an artist. How do those two lenses shape the way that you understand desire?
Yeah, I think it's so important in both fields to have a really high level of empathy, to be able to kind of jump outside of your own body into something else and view it through something else. And I think that within eroticism and within kink and BDSM, there's a lot of sort of empathizing with your partners and trying to view things through their lens, especially if you're curating something that's a big dynamic or a big scene, to be able to have that empathy and to imagine thinking and feeling outside of your own body, I think is just so vital to that practice, and also a reason why I love kink and BDSM in general.
I love the passion that you have for all of this. It really shines through. Okay, let's talk about your eroticism more specifically now. How do you currently identify in terms of both your sexuality and your kink identity?
Yeah, so I'm a big pansexual. I find myself often, attracted even to like, a tree. I'll like see its shape and I'm like, oh, that is a sexy tree. Um, and then I come to that like, oh, I'm finding this like ash bark, hickory, a sexy tree. Like, what does this mean to me as an ecologist to find, especially if I find an invasive species sexy? I'm like, wait a second, like that tree has some baggage. Why do I find myself attracted to it? But what was the rest of the question?
I was asking how you identify in terms of your sexuality and your kink identity. It sounds like you got lost in the nature.
Yeah, I got lost thinking about sexy trees. What can I say? But also with my kink identity, I have taken on a big education role within my local community. I think coming from my scientific background, it really makes me excited about how much having knowledge or having access to knowledge can give us more ability to act. I think within kink, it's like when you are missing some of these baseline understandings about like kink and consent and negotiation, it can feel really hard to navigate and like it's keeping you out. But as soon as you learn those basics, it's kind of like that whole world gets opened up for you, which I find the same thing with like my ecological work, where it's like if I can teach you the basics of how to identify something, how to see the world through this new lens, all of a sudden it can be opened up for you and you can explore and have fun and do something weird.
I've heard the term ecosexual before. Is that something that you also identify with at times?
Yeah, and I love like ecosexual comes from this whole like art movement community as well. Like there's this fun thing out of Norway that's like, oh, what is it? Fuck yourself for trees or something like that, where it's essentially a bunch of porn content put out online through a paywall, and all the proceeds go to help replant the rainforests. Like you can make them intertwined, and they were part of that ecosexual movement as well.
Okay, so much more to learn about it. I haven't deep dived into ecosexuality at all, so I'm learning from you, which is cool. So what would you say are your top 3 kinks currently? If you could only explore 3 kinks for the rest of your life from this moment forward, what would you choose and why?
Mm. Oh, what a great question. So I'm a masochist at my core. I find that pain sensation especially like accidental pain sensation in some ways. Like I always laugh that I'm very euphoric when I get stung by a wasp. I'm like, yay. Like the masochist in me is very like electrified by that. But I find it's really nice. Pain helps us kind of like feel our body's edges with the environment. And also it, I think, reinforces our permeability. Like I'm punctural. I can be punctured. You can poke
Got
me,
it.
you can prod me, you can get through me, you can penetrate me. And I think that all of that reminding that comes from, you know, like rough body play and impact play. What else? I really love some good role play, especially when it comes to like being able to be sort of like nonverbal, animalistic, very primal. I think that that's something that I could never give up for obvious reasons that are being highlighted. What else would there be? I think there's also something that I don't necessarily know the word for it off the top of my, but there's like a fetish for just like the flesh, like how it pushes, squishes. I do a lot of rope play, shibari, and it is really nice to see how like the body, like the flesh squishes around rope. So just being able to watch flesh get squished, I guess, is another big one.
Love it. That's such a particular kink. You might have to give that a name. You might have to name that kink. I don't think it has one.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have quite an interesting and individual set of desires here, and it's a really interesting landscape that you're painting. When did you first realize that your experience of eroticism didn't necessarily fit conventional frameworks?
Very young. I think I grew up in a very Christian world, and so there was a lot of repression around it. But I was very aware that things were different, and my sister also was quite sexually divergent in ways that I think really bonded us as siblings when I was little with her, just because we were able to talk about it with each other behind closed doors, whispered voices.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd say I definitely knew from a very young age, like by like 9, 10, I was like, oh shit, like I'm not, whatever they're doing, I'm not doing it. Whatever's going on in this rom-com, it's not for me. But also like I had a crush on every character in The Lion King. And I was like, something is happening here. Like, why do I want to fuck both Nala and Simba? Something different must be there for me. And then it's like, and Zazu, like, where's that one coming from? So I think that it started very young, but it wasn't until like getting out on my own, living my own adult life, getting out from that sort of sheltered world, that I came to know that there's words for all of this, that there are whole communities of people who are practicing pansexuality opening. And I think also like living in our modern age with internet, and it helps connect people with these disparate sexualities who otherwise would have been kept, like there's not too many of us in each area of the world. But with the internet, we're all together on the Discord server talking about it, which I think is really nice.
And how did you find these communities? How did you go from that 9, 10-year-old girl with these different feelings to finding these communities? What was that journey like in between?
I mean, like, practically, it was a lot of like subreddits and strange holes on the internet that really suck you in. But I think more like personally, it was just a lot of giving myself permission, a lot of moments where it's like, oh, this seems like it's wrong. Well, why? Like really, really querying in at that feeling of wrongness. And then finding that it wasn't helping me or helping nature. I think that if any of my feelings or fetishes I ever felt were exploitative, then, you know, maybe there would be a pulling myself back. But it was realizing how much this is like regenerative. Like, I think Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about it a lot. Like, what if nature loved you back? And there's something too when you start loving nature, realizing that like, oh, this plant wants me to eat its sweet, succulent, juicy berry. Like that's why it put it out there, made it red, made it sweet. It wants me to munch. And leaning into that a bit more became so nice. Like realizing that it can be reciprocal, I think was really eye-opening.
And when you were questioning your perspectives on the world, was it the comparison to your religious upbringing that was causing some concern? Did you have any shame that was coming from that religious upbringing or, contrast that you had to look at?
Yeah, I think the religious upbringing in many ways seemed so in line with a lot of pop culture. Like, I also would listen to Taylor Swift, and she's always complaining about a boy. She's never complaining about the 9-bark tree in her yard. So it's like you see this religious ideology and these cultural ideologies aligning, and it can feel like, well, they must be right if they're both doing it. But then to realize that, like, no, they're both kind of feeding off of the same systems of like tradition, exploitation. And so I think there was a little shame somewhere early on, but it quickly turned into sort of like pride at kind of confronting these things that I think a lot of vanilla or normies don't even question. They just feel really normal about. And it's like, oh, hey, like, have you ever thought that maybe man and woman institution of marriage is a bit weird? Like, have you ever questioned it? And it's like, now I have a bit of pride about how many of these cultural sort of goalposts I now question and have sort of dissolved around me. There's pride instead of shame, I think.
And you also speak about the sexuality of the more than human. And I think you've touched on this a little bit, but that phrase really stood out to me in your podcast form. What does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, so more than human as a phrase comes from the animal studies section of like academia. So it's not really a science and it's not really an art and it's not a humanity because more than human, but it's a way of referring to the other in a way that doesn't make it different than you, but that also doesn't make it lesser than you. And it tries to keep us on the equal ground. But I think it's so, oh man, it's just exponential options for sexual practice. Like even within, if we were to, which is hard for me, it's hard for me to just stick to vertebrates, but also like you're a vertebrate, I'm a vertebrate. We understand vertebrates, I think, a lot better. But it's like even within vertebrates, you have hyena females giving birth through their giant clitorises because they can fuck with them. Or you have like homosexual relationships between albatrosses because they just need someone to comfort them. Or, you know, you have, there's a species of salamander that like they're female only colonies and they just produce their own eggs as females on their own, or sex changes in sharks. So you see all of this like enormous potential that I feel is just like so fascinating, so opening to be like, oh, wow, nature and the more than human are doing all of this. And as someone who knows language and can look at this, I can play around with those scripts. I can, you know, lean into them. And even when you're researching them, it can feel like, oh my God, should I be reading this? Like, should I be reading about these bonobos furiously masturbating on each other to like get over conflict? Like it can feel a bit like, oh, like you're reading a bodice ripper, but really you're reading a scientific article.
I have heard about the bonobos, but I had no idea about the female hyenas and fucking with their clits. Is that true? That's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, it's like a dominance thing. They just have these giant, but the fact that they have to then give birth through the clit is what always, I'm like.
Through the clit?
Girl.
Okay, yeah. I need to look this up after this. That's
Yeah. It's both like exciting because it's like, yes, girl, have a permanent strap. Like I'm here for you. But then it's also like, no, girl, do not have a longer birth canal. Like,
okay, yeah, learning things. I want to bring in a quote here because I feel like it's sitting right at the core of what you're describing around nature. So it's from Karen Barad, who is an American feminist theorist and physicist. And she's known for her theory of agential realism. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she says, we are not merely in the world, we are of the world. And I feel like this is kind of getting at your point, the idea that we're not separate, but fundamentally part of everything around us. Does that resonate with how you experience desire and connection?
Yes, totally. And what it brings up being, of the world, not part, I think is also like these ideas of individual are really, they kind of dissolve away as soon as you start to engage with anything. I think within eroticism, it's like, I don't just love my boyfriend. I love his gut microbiota. I love the millions of bacteria growing in his mouth. I love the parasites on his eyebrows. Like, what does it mean to, because if I boil him down to like a human, individual, separate, then I lose out on all those other relationships that I'm engaged in, whether I want to be or not. I think a lot of times we realize this. It's like when somebody gets chlamydia, we're like, oh no, there were other things about them other than their identity. And it's like when we focus on these as if they're only problems, it's like, well, but also I'm so happy that he's so happy because every time we kiss, I take a little bit of his bacteria home with me. Like there's something in that that's very like we're exchanging immunity. Like there's so much more that I think you can have as soon as you realize that you're not apart. You're mushed in together.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned endosymbiosis in the podcast form, which is super nerdy. I love it. Is this what you're describing right now? Is that what endosymbiosis is? Can you describe this for us?
Yeah, so endosymbiosis kind of has levels. The way that the word is typically used is at the cellular level. So within your cells and my cells, we have mitochondria, which were another organism that in ancient times, one cell ate another cell, and then they decided to just live together in this unit, which now we have all these organelles within our cells that used to be their own entities. So then you have, and that's what endo comes from, is like it's within. Whereas for like me, I have a bunch of gut microbes living in my stomach that are my symbionts. Like they and I work together. They're not necessarily inside of my individual cells, but it would be hard to separate them from me and have us still work because it's become so important for that cooperation to happen that one can't exist without the other. And one of the things that makes me nerd out so hard for endosymbiotic theory, not only because Lynn Margulis, who kind of came up with it, was married to Carl Sagan, and they were like, this, I can only imagine how like sexy the dinner conversations would have been between these two amazing scientists. But it's cooperation, not competition, that's driving a lot of success in evolution. Because you have a lot of neo-Darwinist ideas that it's about like survival of the fittest. You get yours. There's not enough resources to go around and we're all fighting for them. Whereas there's this new sort of ecofeminism ideology that is like, no, like the more that these things can cooperate with each other, the more that my gut microbes can help me and I can help them, the better we both do. And I think that that is such a big and important thing when you're engaging with other people, especially intimately, to see like, this isn't a no-win scenario. Like I can do good and you can do good and we can all have a great time and everybody can come. And that's great.
Is this a relatively new idea, this neo-Darwinism that focuses on cooperation and not competition? I haven't seen many people speak to it.
Yeah, I'd say that it's been floating, like Lynn Margulis sort of coined the endosymbiosis term in like the 70s, and it's been kind of floating around, but it kind of got trapped within feminist science. So it's one of those things where it's accepted, but what it looks like in terms of its application is still, because a lot of our labs and a lot of our practices have been built on this idea of like you isolate and you understand, and then you can do something with it, as if isolation and understanding are at all capable. I think as soon as you see this as like a series of cooperative units, you can't isolate anybody, and you couldn't understand them if you tried, because it's a network. Like, it would be so hard to see the whole network all at once. That those are sort of more like top down, I hate to say the word, but very patriarchal ways of viewing it, as if you can control or understand. Whereas this endosymbiotic view is sort of like, I can't. I'm a thing within a thing within a thing of a bunch of other things. Like, there's no way to really grasp it all at once.
It's fascinating because it's starting from such a small level and from such a scientific perspective, but the way you describe it, it almost ends up really large level spiritual framework, which is fascinating.
Yeah, and that makes me then I also think about Lynn Margulis and Carl Sagan sitting at a table together, and she's talking about her little cells, and he's talking about planets in the galaxy, and you're like, oh, like, they're the same. It's probably was the same. A lot of their thinkings were the same. So it's beautiful.
Oh, if only they had a podcast. If only they had a microphone sitting between them when they were having these conversations.
Well, but they recorded her love sounds and sent them off into space. So nobody did the podcast for like future aliens. Like, Lynn Margaret saying that she loves him is like floating on one of the Voyager discs.
Oh, that's so romantic. I love that.
Oh my gosh, right? Oh, my heart.
Okay, I want to bring in a book here that feels directly aligned with your perspective. There's work in queer ecology, which I believe you mentioned earlier, particularly by Mortimer Sanderlands and Erikson, that challenges the idea that sexuality follows a single natural pattern. And in their book titled Queer Ecology, Sex, Nature, Politics and Desire, they suggest that across ecosystems, including sexuality, diversity, fluidity, and variation are actually the norm, not the exception, and that queerness in many ways reflects something deeply inherent in nature itself. So is this also the idea that you're getting at, that the diversity of erotic identity and how sexuality shows up is a reflection of nature itself?
Yeah. You have to go through a lot of convoluted loopholes in order to get at sort of a heteronormative sexuality being normal. Like, you have to eliminate a lot of your gut microbiome can't even come to the party if you're heteronormative. Like, they're not even a part of it, because then you're having an orgy and that's not okay. Whereas it's like that, the reality is all of these things are so interconnected. And I think too, once you expand out, like I just mentioned vertebrates and their diversity, but as soon as you allow in plants and what I research, algae, suddenly those queer expressions become the norm. They become ubiquitous. They become fascinating, because also the ideas of individual and collective bear way too. Like, what does it mean when two slime mold colonies merge? Like, are they individuals having sex? Are they one thing just coming back together that was fragile? So yeah, and I think too, within queer ecologies, they talk a lot about these sort of symbiotic organisms like lichen on trees. Lichen is both a fungus and an algae, and they both have to sort of travel together in order to grow. They have to exist in a unit. And there's something so powerful in that of like, I'm also polyamorous, and like, you can't be just one thing. You kind of have to have these multiple things to support this unit that's working together.
I'm curious about this because I've had friends who have studied microbiomes and things on a molecular level, and they've almost become weirded out about the amount of germs that we share with each other. But for you, it seems to have increased your desire and enjoyment of sexuality. What do you think is the difference between you and someone who finds it weird to share this amount of germs and this ecology with someone else?
I think part of it might be that idea of control being a lie that we can't really have. I think we have these ideas. I once talked about how because we live in a disease culture, we tend to really focus on things as pathologies or potential pathologies, which really isn't the case. But because the possible consequence of a pathology is so high, we're not willing to risk it. But we really have no control. I think the illusion that humans, like, I find sterility to be, like, it is physically possible, don't get me wrong. But the idea that that's a goal that we should be reaching towards, of like sterile or clean or pure, a lot of those come with a lot of baggage about order and control. That's just not realistic. Like, it's unachievable. And I think, too, as soon as you embrace your place in this sort of goopy world of things, it can be a lot more freeing. I think also for me, I love horror. I love the creepy, gross, scary of it all. Like, the idea that one day I'll just lay back in the dirt and be slowly consumed by bugs is in a way, like, lovely. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, if that happened in a horror film, I'd be like, yeah, that's gnarly. But it gets to happen to me. Like, that's real life. Real life is that everything is decaying and being made new. So I think there's something, too, of just being so excited by the difference that it's sort of any amount of understanding or control or fear that I might have in me is, like, outweighed by just, man, that's cool.
I love the nerdiness. It's awesome. So how does this translate into your kink life day to day? What are you currently exploring in your kink life? You mentioned that you're polyamorous. Can you take us a little bit into your current relationship dynamics and what that looks like for you?
Well, currently a lot of my life is in flux, but I am sort of building what is a very, like, heteronormative structure with my boyfriend and a house out in the woods. But it's also seeing what we're building as a part of that ecological structure. Like, I'm laying down roots with someone in a place. I think within my more kinky and my sort of fringier relationships, it's a lot of, I'm typically topping in scenes and trying to really work hard on that negotiation to open people up to do something that might be weird, that might make them feel really vulnerable in a lot of these ways. And in my head, I'm always thinking, like, how can I sort of show them how much they are capable of? I think within shibari and suspension, there's a lot of doing that, where it's like, I'm going to make you look like a weird shape. I'm going to suspend you up in the air. I think, too, within shibari, it's a chance for me to really explore human bodies. Because I'm putting rope on the form, I'm having to think about how it's constructed. It doesn't necessarily let me get at these more deeper things. And I think that a lot of those things come out in my more personal journey. They don't necessarily show up when I'm doing a scene. But I do have a lot of, like, kink performances and costuming that are focused around, like, you know, with the shibari, it's like, what if these are like vines? You know, what if you're walking in the woods and there's some crazy ass plant that's just going to whip you up in some bondage? So it gets integrated in my, like, fantasies. Sadly, like, that plant does not exist. The bondage plant to fuck me, but we can only hope that maybe in some random realm of the rainforest, it's waiting.
And why is it that why do you think that you're drawn to the more top side of these experiences that you're having? What's the psychology behind your dominant top energy?
I think because I am such, like, a nerd, as you pointed out. So I love doing all of the research. Like, the top, and I was talking with someone else and they're like, no, tops are, like, the biggest service people there are. Because it's like, we really do spend so much time researching what are our bottoms needs, what do they want. It's like playing, like, 4D chess, because it's like, not only am I thinking about my kinky desires, but I'm also thinking about like their perception of that. So I think I just love how much I get to flex my mind and use all these potentials all at once.
Mm-hmm. Do you also see it from a kind of scientific perspective, like you're doing a little experiment as well?
Oh, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Though it's like not with everybody do I mention like, oh, this is an experiment. But I think within kink, it's like we're always kind of trying something new.
Yeah.
Even if it is like a crusty, dusty old flogger, if we're using it on a new partner, like that's a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning something new. And as a masochist, I'm always here. I'm like, anytime I'm holding an object, I'm like, I bet I could get hit with this and it would feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I broke a broom handle the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get beaten with this broom handle.
Yeah, I love when people get creative with their environment and use things that you otherwise wouldn't normally think of. It's really fun. And what about
lately it's been
tell us.
I was just saying the current experimental implement on the list has been these marking flags. And I've been delineating the wetland on our property and planting seedlings. So they're like these thin metal sticks with a little flag on the end that make a crazy impact implement.
Oh, okay. Fun. And what about kink events? Are you someone that enjoys going to kink events and doing public play? Are you more someone that enjoys experimenting in private and at home?
I love them both. I'm big into kink organizing, so I love a good public play party. Thankfully, where I live here in West Michigan, there's actually quite a few really great venues that are out in the woods. And so that is an amazing, to have a group of people being kinky out in the forest is my dream. It's
of course.
always, it's so good. And then locally, I'm also involved in like a fairy role play group that meets outdoors because there's a lot of overlap between those sort of ideologies and nature. So yeah, I'm really interested in getting groups together because I think as well, when you're in a group, there's so much more play that you can do that you can't do just alone.
Mm-hmm.
But alone, there's a lot of like erotic thinking and erotic practices that integrate the more than human in ways that bring me joy and euphoria. Like I'll grind on a good tree. That's always a great treat at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention a fairy group just then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you take us into what that means? What does it mean to hang out with people that are exploring being a fairy?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways in which people have kind of found their own spin to it. So there's a few people who like dress up as like full satyrs out in the woods. We kind of have like leadership dynamic structure where it's like there is a king and a queen and there are servants. There is also a lot of game in that within like fairy folklore. It's like you don't want them to know your name or they might have a secret word to have power over you. So we've been playing around with a lot of that. And I think it gets at what we were talking about with the queer ecology of the fae, I think, in mythology are so close to nature that for them, these queer ecologies aren't really that distant or removed as compared to how they are for mundane humans. And so it has just been a blast. It also is the point where my two worlds of science life and kink life fully collapsed because one of the creatures that I research out in these vernal pools is called a fairy shrimp. And so as soon as it became like, oh no, in my vanilla life, I'm researching fairies. And then in my kink life, I am a fairy. It's just a weird collapse. But it's a blast.
Yeah. How does it feel to collapse those two worlds into each other?
It's lovely and it's scary because I feel that there is a partial need to mask within scientific communities, especially like already as a femme presenting person with a female name, it can be hard to be taken seriously, especially within these sort of ecological woodsman circles. They're very male heteronormative focused.
Right.
So there's already this need to mask that then I feel is I'm a bit hesitant always to have my work invalidated because of my personal life. I think that sometimes comes up for a lot of Kinksters where it's like, hey, if the work is so much bigger than just me personally, so it's always this worry that if they were to collapse too tightly, someone might invalidate it. But for me, I find that them collapsing makes my work so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a nuance that can be hard to communicate, especially in a more professional circle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm curious to hear what you've brought along today, because I asked you to bring something that has influenced your erotic realm, such as a quote, a book, or a movie. What have you brought along today, and how has it influenced your eroticism?
Yeah, so I brought along Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. Do you know of this poem?
I'm not sure. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, I will give it a good read for you.
Please.
So this is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Beautiful. And why this poem? Why did you bring this one?
Yeah, I have found Mary Oliver and poetry in general to be just a great source of like, there's like an emotional tone that it hits. But I think this poem in particular, the amount of times that I quote, like, I'll tell someone, oh, but just let the soft animal of your body love what it loves, I find to be sort of something that I use flippantly within kink circles, but is also so important. Like, just love what you love right now, dude. Like, let all that other stuff fall behind. And I think also the way that it empathizes you and nature together, like, tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. And then it calls to these geese. This idea that, like, oh, nature is lamenting too. Like, there is despair everywhere, but there's also geese flying home and droplets of rain cursing across the landscape. And I think as soon as you open those perspectives, it can be so freeing. So I just love this poem so deeply.
Beautiful. And do you know where the author is from and what time frame?
Oh my gosh.
That's okay. I'm putting you on the spot.
I know that she is passed because I have her collected end of life works. But this is from 2004.
Oh, okay. Pretty recent.
It looks like. I might be wrong.
Well, thank you for sharing. I haven't heard of Mary Oliver before, so I'll have to look into her. I love poetry, and I'm sure many of the listeners would have enjoyed it as well.
Yes.
So let's jump
she
back.
has a beautiful...
Yeah.
Yeah. She has a beautiful poem about eating snapping turtle eggs.
Oh.
That I find to be also fascinating. Just this, because whatever you take from nature, you have these sort of feelings, but her, like, having this reciprocity with this animal that she's stealing its eggs is just beautiful.
So let's jump back into your eroticism now. When you think about all of the experiences that you've had throughout your life and the journey you've had with your pansexuality and your ecosexuality, what is a peak erotic experience of yours that stands out? What comes to mind when I ask you about a time that just really blew your mind or just really tapped into your eroticism?
Yeah. Okay. What a great question. I think there's sort of like two roads. On a very personal road, I was in the middle of the ocean, like I an isolated island, soaking in this like lagoon, and the water was like the same temperature as my body. So I had like no distinction between the two. And I was surrounded by these what are called dinoflagellates, but they are bioluminescent whenever they are exposed to vibration. They like light up. And then it was pitch black because there's like no lights. There were like some fishing vessels way off, but other than that, nothing. And I was just rubbing one out. And to have sort of like the entire ocean lighting up to my hand motions, there's something in that was really powerful to me. And then it's like I cried, and then like the fact that my tears were salty and so was the bay. So I think on a very like personal level, that was a big highlight eroticism moment. And then I think on more of this like otherness level, I got to tie up someone who is really into puppy play and put them into this position that really like gave them this euphoria about their identity. And I found then that kind of unlocks something. It's not the same as the moments personally with the ocean, but it's like a similar vein. It's kind of hard to merge them together, but they feel so similar.
Wow, okay. That first one in particular sounds absolutely incredible and magical. Wow, what an experience.
Yeah.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah, coming in the ocean is always just like, wow, I am coming in this body that interconnects all the continents. Like, what?
Oof, lovely. Okay, so that's your past experiences. What about your future? What's something that you're looking forward to exploring or having more of in your eroticism in the future?
Yeah. So I'm really excited for more group sex and group interactions in the woods for sure. I think that, like I said, with that moment that I had, it was very solitary, and I'm excited to see if we can make that for a group of people together. I just think that there could be something so powerful in that. I also just love when there's so much sexual energy. I find that you see it all the time in nature. I think with my vernal pools, it's just all that I think about now is just like salamander group orgies. And so I really want to put on my own human group orgy where we're all wet and slimy. That's what I want in the future.
Well, I hope that happens for you soon. That sounds amazing. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us that we haven't covered today, a topic that's on your mind or something that we quite didn't get into that you'd like to go further into or anything else?
No, I'm really proud of how far we went with these ideas of like the individual and our place in the world of things. So I think we really covered such a good breadth of this topic.
Yeah, me too. And what do you hope listeners will take away from your perspective?
I think fundamentally that they couldn't be alone if they tried. Like, you can't be alone. You're not alone. You can't be alone. You're always with something. And realizing that you belong with some things. And there's a bunch of things that belong to you. I think that idea of belonging and being with other things is such a comfort, especially when things can start to feel like so isolating and cut up. It's like, no, you're already in it and you've been in it since day one. You don't need to worry about it.
What a beautiful and powerful perspective. Thank you for sharing that. If you had to describe your erotic self in one word right now, Sketchy, and one word only, what would it be and why?
After this interview, I'm going to say slimy. Just because A, it's what I want, and B, I feel like slimy gets at these ideas of, it's not gross, it's sexy. Like, give me some of that bacteria.
Love it. Well, Sketchy, thank you for sharing such a unique and expansive perspective on desire. And I just find it really powerful how you've taken something that many people think of as purely personal, their sexuality, and opened it out into something relational, ecological, and deeply interconnected. So Thank you for taking us into your erotic realm today.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Erotic Realm podcast. This is an independent podcast. If you want to see more episodes made, you can support it at psychologyofdesire.com by becoming a paid subscriber and entering the realm with many other supporters. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize kink and desire in all of its forms. And we can't do that without you. Until the next time, stay perverted.